everybody. I am Lindsay Woods from Cascade Creative Group. And as I said, our Tip Tuesdays this month in March are going to be back-ended with talking to an expert about the subject for the week. So this week's subject is Instagram. And I thought no one better to bring on than Jenna Redfield from the Twin Cities Collective. Hi, Jenna.
Hi.
How are you today?
Thanks for having me. Good.
So Tip Tuesday is a series we do every Tuesday where we just make a quick, short little video and we talk about tips that people can use for their business. And this week it was Instagram. And so we talked about 5 things that are working well right now. And one of those is Reels, which I know you are a master of. So we wanted to just talk to you really quickly on what your thoughts on Instagram are, because I feel like a lot of clients tend to panic when it comes to Instagram. They see the post that says, you need to be posting 7 feed posts a week and 8 reels and this many stories. And it gets really confusing. So for starters, I'd like for you to tell us a little bit about your company and some background. And then let's just dive into what you think is playing well on Instagram right now.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Jenna, and I have been running my local business called Twin Cities Collective for about 4.5 years. And it originally started off as like a networking group for local people, and it kind of expanded. And now I do a lot of workshops and events with my audience around social media. I also do one-on-one coaching and training for anyone in the world, it doesn't have to be local, who wants help with social media, specifically education around different platforms like Instagram, as well as the strategies behind it. So how to utilize certain website apps. And I'm very, very tech savvy. So that's something a lot of people come to me with, like tech support. And so I can help people if they're like, I don't know how to change something on my website, I can help you with that. So I have a podcast as well, Collective Marketing Podcast, that comes out every week. And so Instagram is a topic that I've taught for many years. And so it's something that I do pay a lot of attention to. Actually, just today, as we're recording this, they announced that live video now has up to 4 people instead of 2. That was Instagram's big announcement today, which we were kind of trying to guess to see what it was. We were hoping for Reels analytics because unfortunately with Reels, there is no analytics besides views. That's it. You can't see how long somebody's watching. There's nothing right now because it's such a new platform. Obviously, you can see analytics for stories and other posts, but you're right. A lot of people are extremely overwhelmed by Instagram because there are so many options. Now, what I always like to say is, go with where you're comfortable. So if it's just posts and pictures, that's fine. However, they do right now are promoting Reels more, and they're getting more views. They're getting more traction, just like they did when IGTV came out, which IGTV is basically minute plus video, while Reels is 30 seconds and below video that's vertical. So basically Reels is TikTok, but on Instagram. And that's really what it is. They took over, they saw what TikTok was doing and were like, we got to have a piece of that pie. So that's kind of what happened with Reels. And so now they may have a separate Reels like algorithm. They have a separate Reels like channel where you can actually just kind of swipe through Reels, and they're extremely popular. Video is one of the most popular types of content right now, and it has been for years, but a lot more short form has been popular in the last, I would say, like 4 or 5 years. Stories came first. Now it's kind of self-hosted short videos like TikToks. Now you see things like LinkedIn stories, YouTube shorts. All of this is short vertical content on video that's utilizing music and trends. So Instagram has kind of started to figure that out. It's kind of a new thing for them because they're used to hashtags. They're used to like the main feed. This is kind of like where people are discovering videos of people that aren't following. They're not following. Every time before, you were following stories of people you already watched, and you were looking at posts on your feed of people you already followed. So discoverability on Instagram was actually very difficult. Like it's a lot harder to grow on Instagram than it is to grow on TikTok. And I can attest that I'm almost at 10,000 followers on TikTok in less than a year. And I've been on Instagram on my personal for I think 4 or 5 years, and I'm only at about 3,000. So like for me to be overnight, get to 10,000 on TikTok, like that's crazy. And it's because of discoverability. More people are able to find me. Instagram, that's why a lot of people struggle with growing on Instagram, is discoverability. It's hard unless people know you.
It's very hard. And like you were saying, when you look at, an account that has 5,000 followers, they may have a reel that has 20,000 views. And it's like, where did those other 15,000 people go? So analytics would certainly help with that, to see where where that sweet spot is, so how you can convert those watchers to actual followers for your account.
Yeah. And I know you and I and our Clubhouse group has talked about this, because I think that's the thing is it's hard sometimes that's the thing about Instagram. It's still harder to get follows. People just aren't as willing to follow people on Instagram. They're a little bit more picky, just because that's someone that's going to be in their feed all the time. And I think with TikTok, I think people just quickly follow. Like, it's just not as big of a thing to follow on there. I don't know. Like, I personally feel that as well, is like, oh, this person's fun, I'll follow them. But on Instagram, I'm a lot more like selective on who I follow. And so I think that's the biggest thing about. Plus, there's a limit. I'm not sure if there's a limit on TikTok, but I've hit the limit on Instagram, and it's 7,500. So that is the limit of number of people you can follow. And I just like to follow a lot of people. So I try to dial it back, but sometimes I go on sprees of follows. But I think so going back to kind of what's working on Instagram, I think just getting started with posting images is the place to start. If that's new for you, that's where to go, is just to maybe post a picture or post a quote or graphic. That's a great place to start. And once you feel comfortable doing that, then I would move to stories, because stories are a lot easier than reels. They're, 15 seconds, they disappear within 24 hours. They're just kind of a way to get started with video. Yeah. It's just a way to get started. I always tell people to go on camera. A lot of people don't like that. They're like, oh, I just want to film stuff that's happening. I'm like, no, people like seeing your face. I would say that when I put up videos of myself talking, they do a lot better than videos of just other things. I would say that my biggest tip for stories is do polls, because whenever I do a poll, my video viewership just goes up so much, because people are interacting, and that counts for the Instagram story algorithm as like participation. So stories are the next place to go. Then I would move to reels. I wouldn't start with reels. I wouldn't be like, I have to join reels right now. I think a lot of it is working yourself up to understanding Instagram as a platform, and then, moving into this brand new thing that I think is really fun. And I think it's really great. Just figuring out like what works for you in terms of content. I think right now people are still kind of figuring out in terms of like what works on Instagram versus TikTok, what works on reels instead of a regular post or a video. Because that's the thing, is it's all experimentation. And even I'm still in that mode of like, okay, I post something on my Twin Cities Collective account has almost 20,000 followers. So it's like, how do those videos do in comparison to my personal that has 3,000 followers? So it's like, I'm always testing, like the ones that have done really well on my personal are usually more trendy. And the ones on my bigger account are usually something that connects with my local audience. So I had a video that went super viral on TikTok about a local ice rink that had 100,000 views. And it got probably about 10,000 views on my reel on TikTok, which was good for me, because I was like, oh, I hadn't even gotten that on reels. So it's like some videos that do well on TikTok, I know are probably going to do well on reels. So I kind of cross promote them as well.
So what about cross using content that you create on TikTok on Instagram and vice versa?
Yeah, well, so 2 weeks ago, they announced that they are not going to be promoting any content that has watermarks. There are ways to download content from TikTok. There are apps like Save Talk and stuff where you can download the video, re-upload it. But I would say more so these days, if I know it's going to be a reel as well, I usually create it in reels. That's kind of what I've started doing, is I'll make the TikTok and TikTok if I just know it's not going to become a reel. But if I know it's going to be a reel first, I usually do it in reels, or I edit off of the app completely in an app like InShot. That's kind of my in my head. That's how I use it. Because that way I don't have to worry about making it first in TikTok, having to then download it to some other app so that it won't have the watermark. I just find that that's a lot of steps. So for me, I have never done it the other way. I have never gone from TikTok to reels since this change happened. Plus Instagram reels has a lot better filters. So a lot of the times I make them actually in stories, and then edit them off another app. I know it's kind of a crazy way, but like I do that too. Yeah.
I just save it to the camera roll and then load it into InShot and edit it that way.
Exactly. Yeah,
I
I'm
love
glad I'm
it.
not alone. And also another
No.
great app is the Threads app because it actually has captioning. So if you want a caption from Instagram, if you use the Threads app, you can get like the auto captioning of what you're saying if it's a talking video. So that's really cool too. So I've done, and they also have the Instagram filters. So that's another way to do it too.
So let's talk about the dreaded algorithm for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So every week I feel like I read something different, or a client calls and says, this is bad for the algorithm, blah, blah, blah. Or actually this morning, I was reading an article that said, before you post a reel, make sure to go into your account for 15 minutes and interact with people on your account and then post the reel and you'll get better engagement. So I always tell people, don't worry about the algorithm, just make great content. I mean, if you're serving your audience, they're going to find you. And they're going to interact with you, but everybody kind of always wants a better explanation. So do you have any thoughts on that, or your content's amazing?
I think you're right about the content. I always tell people it's like the algorithm picks up off of what people like. So it's like, but my biggest recommendation is not so much that, but it's what time you post. Because to me, that does make a difference. So I always post at a time that I think more people are going to be on, because what happens is, I call it the snowball effect. So Instagram sends out your content for like 10 minutes and it gets a sense from those 10 minutes, how many people are liking it. Then it'll go for like an hour and it will count like based off of comparing yourself to your past posts. It will like see how many likes and stuff you're getting. And I think it's a little bit different with Reels, but this is just any thing you post on Instagram. So basically the more you get within the first hour, the algorithm like picks it up and it's like a snowball and it gets bigger and bigger. So I can tell within 30 minutes of posting and something if it's going to do well or not. I'll just know right away based off of the number of likes that I get within the first 30 minutes. So sometimes I'll be honest, if in the first 10, 15 minutes, I'm getting like 1, 3, couple likes, I might delete it and repost it because I know that the algorithm's not going to pick it up. So it's like you have to, and I know that's just kind of, and that doesn't happen a lot. Like that happens maybe once every like 2-3 months. Is all of a sudden I'm like, there's like people aren't clicking with this.
That's a good hack.
Rewrite it.
I mean, that's a really great hack.
It is. Another hack that is a little like weird is if you have multiple accounts, like the post within the first couple of minutes, if you have a post, because that's why people use those pods, which I don't encourage, just because I think a lot of them are very fake and like people are only liking your content because they're supposed to, and it doesn't seem authentic. So I don't know if you've heard much about those where people join these like, Instagram groups pods that basically like, it's just like, I get it. It helps the algorithm, but does it really,
Yeah.
I mean, like, does it really help you?
I totally agree with that. I feel that way about bots and DMs. I mean, I got a DM the other day, and it said, I am promoting someone who is inspirational to me. And I can't remember exactly what it said, but it said something like that. And then it had the person's account. So I clicked on the sender, one user, one follower. I'm like, well, this is a bot. Yeah. And then I clicked on the person they were promoting. The guy had great content. And I sent him a note and I said, why are you using bots? Because your content is great. And this is not going to get you the end result, which is you want people to engage with you and buy your coaching services. So, I mean, it's very, if you just even respond? Dig a little, he did not respond at all. So
that's so, I get those every day. I'm not kidding. I get those all the time. Too. I get them like literally 3 or 4 times a day.
I rarely go in and look at them. And this one, I just thought, inspirational. It was different wording. And I thought, oh, maybe this is actually a real person. And then when I clicked on the person, I thought, this is not a real person. And then I went and looked at the guy's content and I was like, why are you doing this? Your content is amazing. I would have followed him, otherwise I would have found him on my own. Just interesting. Well, one of the things you talked about was, liking the post and seeing how it's doing in terms of just general engagement across the board. It doesn't necessarily have to be reels or stories or the feed. It could just be general. But what would you suggest people do to help them get more engagement?
I would say write a really good caption. I mean, that's the thing that I think I've learned over time is people like to read stories on Instagram. And again, you have a max number of words that you can use, but I think writing a really good caption that then encourages commenting or response is a really good way. When you talk about engagement, that usually means like comments, shares, likes. Another thing is I would say some of the posts that have done the best for me in the last year are ones that people share to their stories. So that's why quotes do really well for me, or like certain like inspirational posts about something. For example, in June, when the George Floyd protests were happening, I'm in Minneapolis. So that was happening here. It was a really big thing. I ran a local group. It was a lot. And what I did was I created a ton of content around diversity and racial injustice and just kind of like resources for people. And they got shared so much. It was insane. Like I got like 1,000 new followers in a week. It was crazy. And again, I wasn't doing it for that reason, obviously,
Sure.
but it was a side effect of like the fact that like I was very much focused on my community in that moment. And I was like, I want to create content that people want to share because it's important for them to share. And I think that having that as easy, like now people can just share content to their stories. I was able to create content that went viral in that way. And I wasn't expecting it at all. Like I did not think that people were going to share it. I just thought like, I was like, this is something people might want to see.
But you were serving your audience, which I think every time it goes back to, I don't care if you have 20,000 followers or 5, if you're serving your audience, you're going to make that connection. Because like you said earlier, show yourself, be yourself. People buy from people. You want to know what's behind the brand. So
and I think what I learned that week too is like state what you believe, because people are either going to agree or disagree with you. And I think if they do agree, they are going to share what you're saying. Also, I think providing educational resources is like in a list form honestly does really well. Like I did one a couple of weeks ago on like 10 tips for starting a business. And it was like a graphic. So many people shared that. And I was like, these are, to me, seem like basic tips. Like, I was just like, I don't know, let's put these together. But again, I forget that I've been doing this for so many years, and people maybe wanted to share it with a friend who was planning to start a business. So it's like, and you can actually see in your analytics of each post, how many people have shared it to their stories. A lot of people don't know that. You can actually see who has shared it within the last 24 hours to their stories, and actually go into their stories and look at their story. It's really, as long as it's a public profile. So that's interesting.
So I know
a lot of people don't know.
You're big. I know you are big on automation. So what tools do you like for Instagram or for capturing that data?
It's so funny because I love automation for a lot of things, like on my business, like, but for me, I still like to post Instagram myself. And here's the thing. I know that I should be scheduling my content, and I do try to plan it ahead of time. And actually, that's something I'm doing today is I'm actually planning out my content for the rest of the month. It is May 1st as we're recording this. And I think one of the things that I've realized is, Later is a great app. So if you're looking for like a specific tool, I would say Later is probably the most common. They have a lot of extra features. But also one thing I've just kind of struggled with lately is sometimes if you use a scheduler, they don't do as well. And I've noticed that with a couple of people, and I don't know if you've noticed this too, but like, that's why I still like to personally upload it through the platform itself. Now, I will say that Instagram is part of Facebook, and the Creator Studio is another great platform because it is Facebook's version of like a scheduler. And so it's like, if you're using it through the Facebook app itself, I feel like it's just going to do just as well. But I will say, if you're using a third party, just know that that could affect the algorithm a little bit, because I don't know if they're just not as happy with you scheduling. I don't know. And again, that's just what I've heard from others, as well as I've seen it a little bit myself, is the schedulers can have a little bit of an impact on the reach. So for me, I like to have it like the idea ready to go the day of, and then just maybe write it out and then just click post. So for me, I don't know, I'm just kind of that tactile person where in the morning I post at 8 a.m. every day, like every single day for 4 years. And consistency, again, is another way to get engagement. Is I post Monday through Friday every single day. And that's just me. I know a lot of people cannot do that because of, they're busy, but because I do social media for a living, I'm like, I try to be as consistent as possible. And I post at the same time every single day. I also have a theme every single day of the week. So like today's Monday. So my Minnesota Monday post went out, which was a picture of Minnesota. Tomorrow, my podcast comes. Yeah. So it's like, and then tomorrow is Tuesday, which means it's my podcast day, which means I'll be coming up with some sort of reel for my podcast. Wednesday, I do some sort of promotion. Thursday, I do another reel. And then Friday, I do a quote. That's like my every week on my bigger Twin Cities Collective account. And I started that at the beginning of this year, and it's been really helpful for me to know, okay, today's Tuesday. That means, whatever post comes out. So it's like, it's helpful for me, and again, that can be a huge array of different types of things within that day. But that's actually a tip that I also tell people is maybe theme your days or have different content buckets or categories that you can kind of put things in, because otherwise it's so overwhelming. You don't know. You could do an IGTV, you could do a reel, you could do a post, but if you have it sectioned off for yourself, it definitely makes it less overwhelming overall.
I totally agree. Last month, our whole Tip Tuesday series was around content and scheduling content, planning out your content, batching your content, repurposing content. So if you're watching this and you missed that, just click back in the blog and you can find those videos. They're also on YouTube. Before we let you go, Jenna, so we've talked a lot about Instagram. You have so much knowledge to share, and thank you so much for your time. And you mentioned that it was May, but it's actually March. And I think you have a class coming up in March on Instagram.
Yes.
I wish it was May. It'd be warmer.
Yes. So I know it was very cold today. I took a walk. But basically I have one. It's coming up on the 23rd of March. It is going to be on Instagram Reels. It's going to be an hour and a half with Q&A time as well in there. But basically I'm going to be walking through how to do Reels. So it's going to be how to think of ideas. So it's half is going to be about content, and then the other half is going to be about creating and editing. So like what Lindsay mentioned, like editing an InShot, versus editing in TikTok. Like we're going to talk about all of these options, because again, I don't create reels the same way every time. It depends on the reel. It depends on the day. It depends on if I need a specific song and I can't get it on reels for some reason, I'll make it on in InShot, So I am very much figure it out depending on the reel. And so that's what we're going to be talking about in this class. And I will have the tickets up on jennaredfield.com. So even if you don't live in Minnesota, you can come. I'm trying to move all of my workshops to be less Minnesota themed, just because I want to be able to expand them beyond just my local community. So it's going to be on Zoom. So it's pretty easy to attend. You just have to buy a ticket and it's an hour and a half. So
that's amazing. And what a great, that's a great value. So if you're watching this, you should take advantage of that. We are all familiar with the Zoom culture by now, pros at it. And, that's kind of the beauty of COVID. If there's going to be an upside, it's that, you can take that skill set and serve a much larger audience, because now we're all used to just doing it this way instead of in person.
Totally. Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. The link will also be in the actual written part of the blog, so you can check it out and take Jenna's Reels class. And tune in next week when we will be talking about all things Facebook.